had been doing research on Angel Island and the Chinese immigration on Angel Island for many years prior. And I think there was an opportunity to work with the Angel Island Immigration Station Foundation in bringing a larger project there. Also, because I had been doing immersive performance starting in about 2015 and was interested in staging something in the station itself to do an immersive piece inside the station.
The popular conception of Angel Island is that it's the Ellis Island of the West, but it was not, because Ellis Island was meant, actually, it was right there with the Statue of Liberty, so it was welcoming immigrants. Angel Island was a mass detention center. So a lot of the way we think about Angel Island, I wouldn't say we in the broad sense, I tell you the project team, we would think about Angel Island as a site of mass incarceration.
Of the nationalities of the immigrants who came through Angel Island, a good majority of them were Chinese. And, the Chinese have a very specific history of immigration to the United States and California in particular during the Gold Rush era. And after the San Francisco earthquake and the whole Paper Sons story. So the history of Angel Island is a history of immigration generally, people from Asian countries more specifically, and even more specifically Chinese Americans were the majority of the immigrants coming through Angel Island. So I think Chinese Americans have a very particular relationship to Angel Island, and many of the Chinese Americans who are living in California today can trace their lineage back to someone who came through Angel Island.
That's the beautiful thing about Angel Island, is you can feel it too. Like, you can feel the history, like it's literally etched into the walls. And just the space itself, like walking through those old hallways and the maze of the rooms and the confusion and the loss and the despair, it's all there still.
Within these walls is an interdisciplinary work. And then to do it on site, right in the location of where this racism, discrimination, and detention occurred is so powerful.
Fortunately, because Francis Wong was my mentor from the college years, he had been doing this work for decades, and had a good understanding of fundraising and grant writing. And I'm fortunate to have learned from him as well as other folks in artists in the community here.
Lenora and I have a relationship, an artistic relationship that goes back, over 5, almost 10 years. So we worked on several of her pieces together, and each time is a learning experience.
Fortunately, I've been working with Olivia Ting, the media designer, since 2009. So we have a familiar process with each project.
We have a conversation about the story or the narrative and how is film used. Is film used as a memory, or is it used as an additional layer to the narrative? And also, I think in our just experiments, so to speak, it's also about changing the space as well.
When musicians work with dancers or in an interdisciplinary context, we think about it as we're creating our own new language, right? It's not totally separate from each other because they influence each other. So I guess I would think about it as when to turn the page, right? How do you turn the page?
She has a trust, and I'm very, happy to know that she does trust me to try to find the best way to support her vision.
I work collaboratively with the dancers most of the time, so I bring to the table a certain amount of choreography, and I also ask them to generate choreography. So it's a collaborative process, and I think for the last 4 years, because we've been doing immersive work, and everybody's doing performance in different rooms simultaneously for an entire hour, that there's so much movement that has to be generated for that kind of a project that we have to work collaboratively. There's no way I can generate hours and hours of content.
So we started rehearsals not yet on the space. We were just in a studio or studios first, just sort of generating ideas, working off of words or images. We started to make ourselves knowledgeable about the history of Angel Island, started to think about characters and relationships. So that happened before we landed on the island.
We were given a lot of our own freedom, actually, to create. So each of us played a composite character, though, based on, real life experiences of Chinese folks that were detained on the island. In terms of that process, we would collaborate with each other, but then a lot of it was just working in the space itself, just feeling the space and seeing what was possible movement-wise, and also what we wanted to communicate within the own narrative.
Performance changes every night, even when you're on a proscenium stage. But that was very much more true in the case of immersive work, where you don't know who's going to follow you when, you don't know how many people are going to be in a room when, and because you're in such close proximity with them, you're able to gauge their reactions immediately. I think different dancers chose to engage differently. I know that Hien was very, very actually physically engaged with some audience members, and then others of us just made maybe more eye contact. But Lenora was very open to us definitely engaging directly with audience members.
I recall one moment outside where I was there outside on my knees just watching the waves and the sun, and no one was with me except these two ladies, and they were with me this entire time in this moment of silence. I turn around and we lock eyes and we get to meet hands, and just a moment of silence of us connecting eye to eye, hand to hand. And it was just, at that moment, no dancing, no movement, just this stillness and watching each other. And then even though, this person is a stranger, but to just meet in that way and to have all these things going on, but to just feel that, yeah.
Given that you just interviewed Hien, I kind of wanted to respond in terms of him as a mover, because he is so unique. Like, he comes to dance with a background in breakdancing, and then he studied modern dance, contemporary dance in college. So what he comes to the table with, I think people can relate to on a different level, because breakdancing has a more universal following. I feel that he's inspired so many people because they can look at him and just feel his heart, feel him giving so generously. And so I think, although he was playing a real character, you could tell that everything that he was doing, all of his movement, all of his choices, all of his interactions with audience were very specific and very genuine. And I think that's one of the reasons why the piece is so touching, is because a lot of these characters have some kind of a connection to their own immigration or immigration of their parents or family members or friends, very close friends. And so for them, it's an opportunity to embody their own experiences, and be able to share that with others in a very genuine way. It's almost like this is half our story.
I feel even more related to this character. I believe we are all fighting the same thing, just in different version, different time. Being immigrant is super hard, and I appreciate how hard it is, because if things come easily, then we won't appreciate that much. I believe that.
And if I can spark that kind of interest, or if we as a collective can spark that interest, then I feel that we have, touched people in a certain way. And it's just really important right now, because of all the anti-immigrant sentiment that's going on in this country currently, that hopefully it will allow people of a more compassionate perspective on an immigrant experience, and to not look at it as they are the other, but really understand that we are all human beings. We all have challenges. There are reasons why people flee their country, the reasons why, you know, they're seeking a better life. It's not because they want to take your jobs or steal your opportunities, but, you know, they're leaving incredibly traumatic homelands for a variety of reasons. And it's not to put the blame on these people who are just trying to survive. And that's really what I hope that we have been able to share in some respects through the project.